so we really want to have a robust conversation about hip-hop and activism. So this is our panel. Take a good look at them because, like I said, all of them can headline by themselves.
So a generation of folks came around that were younger and wanted to get people more involved, and I think that got identified as hip-hop activism. But in reality, I think the word hip-hop, there are a lot of people that do not connect with that word. You know, like hip-hop in some circles, you'll be like, oh, hip-hop, they'll be like, oh, you mean that white boy shit? So the term now is being used, and it kind of got coined by many foundations who are looking to fund certain things that they're identifying as people that are trying to connect with the community. I would also say that activist to me connotates event-based organizing, right? It connotates, just the thing that we're going to organize to try to make this demonstration happen. We're going to organize to make this rally happen. That doesn't mean that that's what it is, but I think that to a lot of people, it connotates that as opposed to organizing a more long-term campaign that has to do with changing people's material conditions.
Is putting food on your table is activism. Making sure there's, your child sleeping well and is protected and is safe, from the streets and from the state is activism. And so I think on hip-hop, it means very different things to different people. And for me, myself, when I put those two words together, hip-hop was just the cultural ways I dealt with death. In a world that constantly tried to remind me I should not be alive, and people who looked like me and who I love should not be alive. So hip-hop activism to me was just what are the generational ways across this planet that we now and have always dealt with the world that wants us in an early grave.
To me, when you look at hip-hop, the founding of hip-hop, hip-hop's creation was really a direct response to the violence and poverty taking place in the South Bronx, you know what I'm saying? The violence, the poverty, and oppression. And out of that, you know what I'm saying, people responded by using culture as a way, this hip-hop culture as a way, not just to, one, to get a voice, to have a voice for themselves so they could speak about what was happening in their community, to unify, you know what I'm saying, at that time, the gangs, to bring people together, around something other than fighting one another, but around DJing, breakdancing, graffiti. So to me, I kind of look at it as like really using arts and culture, as really building on what Mark said, as a direct response to this oppression, this poverty, this violence that we're dealing with. And so that's why you find a lot of people saying hip-hop saved my life. Because hip-hop, gave people like us a voice. It gave us hope. It gave us a feeling like, okay, well, man, if I say something and I say it the right way, and I said, like, my voice matters. My voice is important. You know what I'm saying? How I dress, how I act matters is important. And giving our young people that feeling, that hope, that desire, and that ability to express themselves and tell their story, to me, that's when it becomes real activism. Because now, somebody like Sis was saying, somebody in Japan can relate, somebody in Africa can relate, somebody in Brazil can relate. And then we can just have this really connection. It's really, to me, I feel like at the end of the day, like what hip hop is really it's the language of oppressed people worldwide, and it's really the language and the soundtrack of the revolution.
So, David, we've had discussions too where you said at the end of the day, if I can paraphrase, hip hop refocuses you, right? It brings you back to your purpose. And I think whether you're in high school or as an adult, one of the reasons why I brought up this idea of dreamers is to question, and this critical thinking is to question the status quo. That's a space when we start to play, when we start to dream beyond what we have been given. That's a place where we recreate our realities. And hip hop in particular, you don't have to be an MC, you don't have to be this or that, but I think it's one way of combating oppression with expression. It's one way of vision planning, getting your sense of purpose and actually writing it down, creating a way to manifest that. There's so many brothers and sisters connecting police globally?
Two things. One, when I was raised in Cleveland, all of the hip hop artists that we consider DJs, MCs, graffiti writers, breakdancers were always in the community. Cleveland was raised on, we had community festivals a lot. There was about 5 or 6 major community festivals, in addition to people were actually blocking off their streets. So while those things was happening, while you plugging in the turntable, somebody's like, how's your grade? So I'm good at mathematics, let me give you that. So hip-hop activism was something that was really organic that I grew up seeing. I think what makes what I do in the classroom now hip-hop activism is because I'm teaching hip-hop. I'm in a room of, girls that are from Pacific Islander to Asian to West African all in one room, and their lens of what they think hip-hop is changes once we get a chance to talk about history and for them to get a chance to get exposed to different things. So I think that adds the element, knowing the history, knowing hip-hop, and knowing how to apply those elements and really give it to children in a way that's practical and functional.
Okay, appreciate.
Through hip hop, I was able to find a voice that I didn't know that I had. So, in working with people from different backgrounds, I find that using hip hop is a way that it can be more universal because it's a language that if people don't even speak your language, they get it. So, I would say that even if I didn't rhyme, it's in who I am. It's part of my aura, it's part of my design, it's in my genetics. I mean, the oral tradition of sharing and using art and music to teach is ancient. So that's just my ancestors.
Is it different than what it might have been before our generation, before our respective generations, when the Panthers and others were around?
I mean, they were rapping, but it was just a different type of rap.
Okay.
So I feel like with every generation, we just take and we build off of what those that came before us did. We're always standing on their shoulders.
Okay.
Just to call it hip hop, that classification, it's a code word for African people's oppressed culture. You know what I'm saying? And so you can't say one thing is hip hop and it's not. It was hip hop when Huey P. Newton crafted the 10-point platform. Yes, that was hip hop. When it came into my life, it's part of our culture, the way we walk, the way we understand life is based. Unfortunately now, we can bring it to a point where we can discuss this in the classroom. I remember when and for my 7th grade, 2nd period, I would dance to Egypt, the whole class. Look, but there wasn't no hip hop class. This was just a class we went to. You know what I mean? But for all intents and purposes, if you did that today, then this is hip hop education.
Because a lot of hip hop activism is being funded, we get caught into just the cultural side of it, right? So we'll do a breakdancing class, or we'll do or we'll do a lyric writing class, or whatever, and we get, it ends up becoming a job, and we forget about the fact that we need to struggle to change people's material conditions, not just us changing them, but struggle to let folks know that it is through them joining with the people in their community and basically shutting things down that they're going to even affect a little bit of change. And so if we want to embrace that term, hip-hop activism, we need to define it as something that is a materially substantial change. I don't think our problems have to do with people just needing a positive outlook. I don't think our problems have to do with people just needing a way to let out their aggression. I think that our problems have to, that if we want to stop people from shooting each other on the street, we got to give a different business plan, because right now people are shooting each other on the street because that's how you regulate illegal business. You regulate any business through violence. Most legal business have the police to regulate it for them. But people on the street, we don't have that. So if we want to look at those problems, we don't just give people a way to have a rap battle and get their aggression out. That's cool. I think that that is necessary, actually, separately. I think that these things are valuable in the sense that they bring a quality of life. We need to be able to express ourselves, and we need to be able to create. And that is one of the things that we all should be fighting for. What we need to teach is how to build a movement, and how to build a movement. And that really is the context that we need to know our history in. We can't just know that, you know, so-and-so did such and such on this date and that date, because then we'll replicate, you know, the same mistakes that the education system has put upon us in the past. If we really want to have if you really want to have an effective ethnic studies program, that actually has to be a movement. It has to be something that is willing to go shut down McDonald's and help make a fast food workers union, right? That would be teaching people how to do, because the truth is, the only way that we have leverage is to give the capitalist class a choice between no profits and less profits, right? And the only way that happens is by figuring out where our power base is, and our power base is that we create the profit. Whether wherever you work, wherever you are, you're creating that profit. And only through connecting with the other folks that create that profit do you have a power base. And
those are people. Like we sat there and we said, like, how does the new era of thought leaders come into existence? How does a new generation of conscious artists come into existence? I think sometimes we're very hypocritical also when we talk about hip-hop and the youth, like, why aren't they rapping about this, and why aren't they rapping about this? Did you teach them that? Well, how can they rap about something that they don't know? Like, if we're not actively teaching them. You know, in our academy, the first book that we gave our students, the ISIS Papers.
That's right.
Because we felt like, if you don't understand white supremacy, you'll never be able to analyze the media properly. Because it's too much of white supremacy. So it's like, if you're not giving them information that's going to politicize them or make them conscious, then why would you expect them to rap about anything else? You know what I'm saying? And as it's forcing us to say we have to begin to educate our own children. And we have to use unique and different ways of forcing us now. You know what I'm saying? So what we did in Pittsburgh with the One Hood Media Academy is similar to what M1 said. We saw the attack, and a lot of the attack on our youth is coming from media. It's coming from mainstream media. So we saw a need to just sit down with young people and just have a conversation about what these media images are, what they mean, and realize that, and help them to see that they're really just commercials. Really, even rap music now isn't really even to sell CDs. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to sell you liquor, they're trying to sell you McDonald's, they're trying to sell you Gatorade, they're trying to sell you Nikes, you know what I'm saying? And really, most of what you're hearing, it's not real, you know what I'm saying? And so that was one part of it. Another thing was to engage them around technology. You know what I'm saying? Because for me, specifically as an artist, I was able to become known from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you know what I'm saying? And really presenting my music directly to the consumer, you know what I'm saying? Instead, so I've never been on no major label. So I've been right to it independently. So we said, wow, you know, we can create our own media now. You know, in Pittsburgh, they did a study on how the local media in Pittsburgh portrays black men. 96% of the time that they portray black men in the local media is crime or sports. That was an official study done. So we said, well, later with corporate media, you know what I'm saying, we have the tools now. So
the thing I will say is that the moment I realized that nobody was in control of my creativity, nobody was in control of me as a hip-hop artist, nobody was in control of how I could actually create and put out my music and where I tour and where I play and when I play. Once I realized that I had power and control and started operating from that, then the entire whole industry, everything started to look totally different. So it's like, still have to go, as much technology as we have, I almost think that it's a perfect time for us to go back to one-on-one, face-to-face, off technology connection. Like, really do that. You want to know about my new album? Don't ask me where to pick it up on iTunes. Ask me to give you a 16 right now. Like, you can get it right now. There's no way to hear it. There's nobody that's in between us. so I think we have to remember that we actually can create our own paradigms for what we want to do, but we just...
How many of us actually dream about what the world looks like the day after the last prison is closed? You know, to put on the table your imagination of what that new world looks like that makes our existing reality so bigoted and painful to live in, we have no alternative but to grow that alternative space. You know, to really understand it in that sense. And I really wanted to say something to you that I wish more elders had said to me is that first and foremost, I'm sorry for not being victorious in everything we attempted in creating the world you deserve. First, because you inherited this space, and you inherit our trauma. And we have to stop thinking of trauma as an individual experience, but a collective phenomenon across generations. And you are inheriting our trauma, and for that, I apologize to you, and I want to say that it's not for what I can show you, it's more on the lines of what would you like help with? And let me know.
And we're gonna have a line that says, looking at the industries like watching the sunset. You can't tell a rotten piece of fruit to become fresh. The industry's out. I mean, it's really like, you know, to think that, you know, it's gonna be the same, you know, they don't even know what it's gonna look like. You know what I'm saying, in the future. And it's really, what we're actually doing right now is creating that alternative to what it really is. So I wouldn't even worry about what the industry's doing more so than creating, like the brother said, what would it be if we were in charge, and let's create that. And
I think that what I'm doing is trying to affect people with my music, trying to get people involved in doing something to change the world. And usually that line of me saying, well, my music is going to affect more people than this particular thing that I'm being asked to do, and I need to focus on my music. And the difference is that one time that wasn't the case, and that's when people were asking me to be involved with Occupy Oakland, and I realized that certain kind of actions can affect way more people than a song or a whole album or a whole collection of albums can. So we did this general strike in Oakland, and for whatever people think the successes and failures of all that was, it affected people. I immediately saw that it affected people in a way that music hasn't. Yes. And a lot more people around the world. Just a week later, Occupy Nigeria was started, and they did a general strike a month after that shut down all of Nigeria. And had hundreds of thousands of people in the streets and shutting down every piece of industry. I'm not talking about there's a group of people gathered somewhere and a lot of people at work. I'm talking about Nigeria was shut down. Everything. The oil fields, the train stations, the airports, everything was shut down. And not to say, obviously, they did that. But the idea was put out there by it actually being done. I don't think that would have happened if a bunch of people had just made songs saying there should be a general strike. Right?
Believe that we don't need that system, this system at all in order to do the things that we need to do. When it can't wait so much that we go and say, I refuse to take my children to the school. I'm going to take all of our children to the park. We're going to get all our books and we're going to teach them ourselves until they bring the news cameras around and say, look, there's 100 people who refuse to take their children to school. And those are the actions that make them, well, that changes the lives of the youth. It changes the lives of the parents. And it changes the lives of the community. It takes that kind of direct action to make these things happen. And until we're willing to commit to it, we just bullshit it. A lot of the time, we really are. You know what I mean? So when you're ready to take them steps, which I'm 100% ready to do it. Like, let's take our future into our hands today. Oh, we can tiptoe around it and make slight reform, and we'll be around 50 more years and talking to your children about what's happening. But I know what we have to do, and you know what we have to do, and that self-determination, that leadership is inside that process. We find that leadership inside that process. So thank you, and I can't wait to learn from y'all.
I want to thank you.